The Without Fear of Her Future podcast is for women who are passionately pursuing financial freedom through investing in real estate. We are here to empower you to be brave, dream big, and design a life you love. I'm your co-host, Tresa Todd, founder of the Women's Real Estate Investors Network and author of the book, Without Fear of Her Future.
And I'm Melissa Baker, real estate investor and fitness coach specializing in turning properties from drab to fab. I'm here to help motivate and inspire you to build your dream life because, girl, you deserve it. Welcome back, listeners. We are so glad you are here today, especially today, because we're going to go back to the basics and talk about something every investor needs to understand: active versus passive real estate investing. So if real estate investing is new for you, listen up and take notes. And if you're a seasoned investor, this might be a good refresher, or share this with someone you know who's just getting started, because there's some great information that we're going to be bringing to this episode.
Absolutely. Yes. So if you're new to real estate, this is one of the first decisions that you are going to face. Do you want to be in the day-to-day hustle, or do you want your money working for you in the background?
We're going to break it all down, like what active and passive strategies actually look like, who they're for, and how to decide where to start based on your goals, your time, and your budget. There's so many things to think about when you're trying to make that decision of where you want to get started in real estate investing.
Yes,
because it's really exciting, and some of us want to do it all.
That's so true.
So, Tresa, let's talk about, and you start out with explaining the difference between active and passive investing.
Okay. So with active investing, there's basically two different strategies. With active. Let's talk about active. So the difference is active is more hands-on. This is if you have more time than you have money. It's going to cost you less to get started, but it's going to take more of your actual time. That's active investing. Now, passive investing, it means that you have a little bit of money. You don't have to have big sums of money, but you probably have a little more money than you do time. It's way more hands-off. You're usually not the one out there doing the negotiating, getting it under contract. This is more you lending your money out, getting a great ROI on it, or it's you acquiring rental properties and building that wealth generation. So that's the basic difference between the two.
Okay, so let's dive into active first, and let's really talk about that one, because that is really where most people, I know that's where I got started in active investing. So let's talk about that, because it's for people who don't have a lot of money. And it's the best way to get started if you don't have much money. It's a little more hands-on, so it's going to take some of your time finding the properties, negotiating, getting things under contract. Let's talk about some of the different strategies that involve acting.
Two active strategies. Wholesaling. I had no idea whenever I became a real estate investor that you could wholesale properties.
Yeah.
So I had a friend who had a cute little jewelry boutique in East Texas, and she would go to market once or twice a year, and she would buy all of these beautiful pieces, accessories, and all of that at a wholesale price. She would come back and put them in her cute little boutique, and she would sell them at a retail price. And then she made the difference between what she bought it for and what she sold it for. And it's that simple. So
really?
Yeah. And so when I've got, it's date night or going out with the girlfriends, and I'm like, oh, I want something new. I just go in to her boutique store and I just find what I want. I pay a retail price for it. I didn't have to go to market. I didn't have to find it. I just buy it and I walk away with it. Well, wholesaling property is pretty much exactly the same thing as that. You are going to get a piece of property under contract. You're not even buying the property.
Okay.
You're just getting this property under contract using a very simple formula.
Okay.
And you get this piece of property under contract, and then you sell that contract to what we call an end buyer. And you make the difference between what you got it under contract for and what you sell that contract for. That is wholesaling. That's how simple it is. Getting a piece of property under contract, selling the contract, and making the difference. And the typical profit on a wholesale deal is somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000.
So that's a great active strategy to get some money going if you're just getting started.
Absolutely. Now, remember, when we're doing either active strategy that I'm going to talk about, we are getting these properties under contract. That formula, just want to run it by you, is 70% of the ARV minus repairs.
70% of the ARV minus repairs.
Right. Obviously, the question is, what is an ARV? The after repair value.
Yes.
What is the value of this property going to be worth after any repairs are done? That is the ARV. We do something called running comps. It's super simple. You learn the ARV, and then 70% of that minus the repairs. That means minus what it's going to cost you to get this property to look like all the other, comps in the area. Now, the beautiful thing with wholesaling is you don't have to do any of those repairs. You don't have to do any of that. You just have to know the formula, use the formula when you get it under contract, and then sell that contract to the end buyer.
How are you finding these properties?
Okay, well, I love that. That's a great question. We are looking for off-market properties. Usually with distressed and motivated sellers. These are people maybe have inherited a property in another city, another state. They can't afford to, go and do the rehab themselves. They can't afford to pay the taxes and maybe even the mortgage, or maybe they're facing foreclosure. People that are facing a crisis. Okay. They don't have the luxury of time and money of placing this property on the MLS with the realtor and waiting for it to sell. They need a fast close. They just need to get out from under this property really quick. So when you're wholesaling or when you're doing active strategies, you're usually getting these properties under contract from a motivated or distressed seller, and you're creating a win-win for them. We're never taking advantage of them, but we're able to put some money in their pocket. Can I just say, when you're wholesaling, it's not our money. It's the end buyer's money that you're putting in their pocket, and you help them to get a fresh start. So it's a win-win.
It's a great way to help people.
Absolutely. And there's literally no money needed, because all you're doing is getting the property under contract. Your end buyer brings all the money to the table whenever you're wholesaling. So that is the first active strategy.
Okay. So another active strategy that we want to talk about, the second one that Tresa was mentioning, is flipping. And flipping is actually how I got started. When I began real estate investing, as my first deal was a flip, and I used other people's money. So that's a good active one, because you don't have to have your own money to get started. I didn't have money to get started, so I had a private money lender, other people's money, to purchase the first flip. And a flip, I mean, you can make some good money on flipping. I think the average is about $65,000. So it does take longer than the wholesaling. The wholesaling's pretty quick. Yep. Flipping usually takes 6 months, give or take. There's some that are pretty quick, that just need a few little things rehabbed, and you can get them back on the market and get them sold. But usually it's about 6 months. Some can take longer.
Yep.
I like to plan for longer, just because you want to err on the side of caution, I believe. My largest flip, I've done a few, I was a $90,000 profit.
Ooh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Almost $100,000 on one deal. Yeah.
Yes, on one deal. That one was a little bit longer, but that one took about 11 months, I believe, but it was totally worth it.
Yeah.
That was, a nice little profit. And with flipping, you can be flipping, kind of like wholesaling. You can wholesale several houses at a time. You can have several in your pipeline. And that's the same with flipping. You can flip more than one house at a time.
Absolutely.
So I've had up to 3 or 4 different projects going all at once, which is a great payday when you get them on the market and start selling them. So
and the reason that we can flip 2, 3, 4 houses at a time or more is because we're not doing the work ourselves.
Right.
Yes, we are hiring contractors. They do the work so that we can spend more time just getting the next property under contract. And when you use that formula that I discussed, you can afford to pay the contractors.
Absolutely, because our time is money, and it's so valuable. So time that they're spending laying floors or painting the house, that's time that I'm out looking for another property. I'm out marketing. I'm out negotiating. I'm closing deals, wholesaling some houses maybe to add to my my bottom line
That's
here,
right.
right? There's
Yeah.
so many, you can mix these up and do both at the same time.
And the beautiful thing is at the Rain, we also teach you how to deal with contractors,
Yes.
how to not pay them until the work is done, all of the things so that you can be flipping multiple houses at a time. Or like you said, if you are really wanting to be a strong, active investor, you're wholesaling a few properties, you're flipping a few properties, and you're making 20,000 here.
Right.
65 here, like you, 90,000 here. I mean, that's a great way to build capital, to raise, so that you can do bigger and better deals that will require a little bit money, but way less work.
Yes.
But so active strategy does require a little more hands-on, a little more work. I made $20,000 on my very first deal, which was a wholesale deal. And then I went on for the next 6 months. I only did active investing, which was flipping and wholesaling. And I ended up making more money in those few months than I had in my 401k after 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it was a life changer.
So if someone's listening to this that's considering real estate investing, I want you to say that again, because I think there's a lot of women especially, but people that are out there, they're working their 8 to 5, they're going to work and they are saving and they think they're doing, this is what's going to build them some wealth for retirement is getting that money in the 401k. So you made...
Yeah. So I had been in the medical field for 25 years, putting money in that 401k all that time, thinking that was going to be enough. Then realizing after 25 years that, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to truly retire. And I was making $65,000 a year, which happens to be the average profit on one flip, which is unbelievable, that you could work a whole year to make $65,000, or you could do one flip while you're doing multiple flips, and make that same amount of money. But yeah, so I made $20,000 on that first wholesale deal, and then went on in the next several months to make more money in that few months than I had in my 401k after 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was life changing. And that's really what made me want to start the Women's Real Estate Investors Network. I was like, okay, average women like me that are making $65,000 a year need to know that this is possible and that they can do this.
Yes, yes. I love that. So let's move on to our other one that we're talking about today, because I know you've kind of moved into this area and I'm kind of doing a little bit of both right now.
Yep.
So we want to talk about the passive investing.
Okay, passive investing. Okay, so passive investing, I want to say this, I might say it 3 times during this show, is the ultimate goal. We all want to be, because active is still a job.
Right.
I mean, whether
it takes your time.
It takes your time and energy. You got to be overseeing it. Even though you're not doing the work yourself, you're overseeing it constantly. You're constantly getting something under contract, negotiating, running comps, and all of those things. When you move into passive investing, this is where it is really fun. It's way less hands-on.
Yep.
It does usually require having a little money. Now, not hundreds of thousands of stashes of money sitting somewhere, because again, that's what I thought all investors had to have. But if you do have a little money sitting in a 401k or retirement or savings, you want to put that money into real estate so that you can, and so here's some couple of things. Purchasing rentals. This is wonderful. Whether we're talking about a long-term, a midterm, or a short-term rental. Long-term rentals are usually about 6 months to 2 years contracts, and you can make some good money. You can have some good cash flow. You can make double or triple that cash flow with midterm or short-term rentals. And we do a whole training on short-term rentals that is just unbelievable. But this is a good way, whether we're talking long-term, midterm, or short-term, to build long-term wealth.
Love it.
When we're talking active and we're talking about making $20,000, $65,000, you're making that quick. You're just getting that quick money. But you're always having to do work. When we're talking about passive, this is cash flow every month. And so this may be just a few $100s, maybe $500 a month. But when you get multiple of those, that really starts kicking in. So this is like long term, especially when you build in that we have the tax benefits that come with owning rental property, that instant equity, appreciation, loan pay down, on top of that cash flow, this is where that...
A lot of ways to generate wealth.
Lots of ways to generate wealth. And you're going to pass this down. Not only is that going to help you with your retirement, as it appreciates and you can refinance and over and over and over, but this is, you're going to pass this down to your children and your children's children.
Which is really something you love to teach on and talk about, is the legacy building. Because that's ultimately what you've done. with your real estate
Absolutely.
investing and what I'm working towards as well. And
Yeah.
I think most of the women in the rain definitely
I
see
have
that.
10 grandkids. I'm about to have 11. By the time this airs, I will probably have 11 grandkids. And so I want to pass these properties down to my children and my children's children. And
So the rentals they're considered passive. And I want the women to hear this because the rain teaches you how not to be a landlord.
that's right.
How to have rentals without being a landlord, without the headaches, because none of us want those 2 a.m. phone calls of a toilet that's closed or an air conditioner that's out or, a
Absolutely.
roof is leaking. So you've got your property management companies that handle all of that. They do the heavy lifting for you, and the rain teaches you how to do that while we just sit back and collect on our returns.
Mm-hmm. And get the next property under contract.
Yes. So that's something that I've, along with the flipping, like I said, I'm kind of got my hands in both of them right now. Doing flipping. I have a rental as well, and it's doing all 5 of those wealth generating.
It's appreciating.
It is.
You've got some cash flow coming in.
Cash flow. Yep.
You're getting the tax benefits.
Yes, I am.
Your tenant is paying your loan down every single month. And you've got some equity in that property.
A lot of equity in it.
Woo!
So,
Love it.
I can't wait to get more. I want to get more.
Yeah. So again, when you're doing passive investing with rentals, you don't have to have we want you to use property management company. Mm-hmm. It's not what it costs you. It's what it makes you. So go ahead and invest in that. And you're not dealing with any of the issues. You're just collecting money while you're sleeping, while you're on vacation, or while you're getting your next deal.
Yes.
It requires a minimal time commitment. It's idea for busy women or those who are really even new to real estate investing.
Okay, so another way to be a passive real estate investor is by being a private money lender. And I want to talk about this for a minute because this is another thing that the Women's Real Estate Investors Network taught me how to do, was turn my 401k into a self-directed IRA. So now I am also a private money lender with my IRA. So let's talk about that because it's a great passive strategy.
Okay, and this is where you can make 12, 15, up to 18% on your money in a relatively short amount of time, usually a 6-month loan. So you're loaning money right out of your self-directed IRA. Or you move it from a retirement or whatever into a self-directed IRA. You're lending this money out, usually for about 6 months. Again, 10, 12, 18% on that money. And then you just lend it out again. And you lend it out again. And you lend it out again. I mean, talk about passive.
Right.
You're able to work your full-time job. You could do, again, vacation, whatever. And your money is just making you money. Where else are you going to make 12, 15, 18%? There is no 401k out there. There's no other place that you can make that kind of money.
Right.
And you're creating a win-win because you're lending that money to another. If you're in the rain, we have women who are lending and who are borrowing. Mm-hmm. And so you're lending women money who don't have money to do their deal. And so, but it's a short-term loan for them, and it's well worth it, even though they're paying some, it sounds like really high interest. It's a very short-term loan. And when you're making $65,000 on if that's the average profit, and that's after you pay back your private money lender. So there's just so many ways to make money as an investor. We just discussed 2 active strategies, 2 passive strategies. And so, yeah.
The beautiful thing is that the ultimate goal is to be the passive investor.
Yes.
That's what, none of us want to be trading our time for money anymore.
Right.
The goal of this is that time freedom as we grow a little bit older and set our families up with the legacy that you were talking about. So we all want to become the passive investor, the time freedom, location freedom, to travel, to do the things we want to do.
And you can live anywhere you want to do.
Yes.
Anywhere. You can live in any state. You can live in any country and still lend your money or acquire rentals. So that's the beautiful thing is location freedom.
So everybody has a little bit of time or money. One or the other. Not everybody has both.
Right.
But wherever you are, you have the opportunity to become a real estate investor and completely change the course of your life and your family's, really. Whether you want to be active or passive, and it just depends on what you have more of, time or money.
Yeah. Or even what interests you.
Yes, yeah. So if you're looking to truly build wealth, leave a legacy, and learn more about these strategies, come check out the next masterclass at withoutfearofherfuture.com. We are so glad that you
Yes.
took time to spend today with us and to get this information because it's so great. I mean, really, the legacy that we're building for our families is just
And to see what
so
our students
incredible.
are doing inside
Yes.
the rain and how they're lending to each other, borrowing for each other, building legacies together, helping each other create win-wins, and creating win-wins for the people that we're helping,
Yes.
that are facing distressed and motivated situations.
The Women's Real Estate Investors Network has it all.
That's right.
We sure do. So
We bless you. Be brave and dream big.